Zak Brown has been eyeing Red Bull yet again with his statements, stirring up the pot when it comes to their drivers' lineup. The American is one of those who is wondering why Red Bull chose Lawson over Tsunoda. But apart from that, he's taken the courage to talk about the future of Verstappen, as well as his deteriorating relationship with Horner. But with Brown's team now being at the top of the table, will these statements create a lot of fuss in Red Bull? And more importantly, how will the drivers respond to the increased outside pressure? The beef between Zak Brown and Red Bull continues. This time, the topic for McLaren's boss was the choice of Lawson over Tsunoda. Zak didn't actually understand how a driver who outperformed Lawson in the 6-race span they were given in 2024 didn't get the seat over the semi-rookie, who has a total of 11 F1 race experience in his career. And to make matters more intriguing, he went on to comment about it publicly, stating, "Yuki did a great job, probably the guy that should be in the Red Bull if you look at how he's performed, but they seem to make some strange driver choices from time to time." Brown is probably not the only one with this question in his head, but for him to go out in public and stress it the way he did is something that's done with a sole purpose: to create a lot of pressure on Red Bull. He knows very well that if you want to make something dysfunctional, you have to turn the narrative against it, and in this scenario, Brown's target is Lawson and his performance. Of course, one race is far away from enough to say that Liam is the reincarnation of Perez. Both he and the team admitted that they have missed the strategy in Melbourne. This doesn't represent the poor qualifying he's had, which is what provoked the comments from Brown in the first place, but it definitely represents the poor pace that the second RB21 has shown on its debut. All of this might have been dubbed a poor try from Brown to destabilise the Austrian team had it not been for Tsunoda's statement when it comes to why Lawson was chosen over him. Elaborating on this from his side, the Japanese driver said, "I didn't really ask why Lawson got that seat over me. I think Christian mentioned it's not about performance. From what I heard from other people, they're saying that it's not performance related, it's more like a political decision. I don't know. Maybe Christian didn't really say specifically what the reason was. I didn't care really. Whatever they say, I don't know if that is true or not, to be honest. And in the end, I just told them how I feel, how I am still motivated for next season, and that's it." Now, you would think that Brown is going to stop here and enlarge the poor performance of Lawson in Melbourne to something much greater than it actually is. But no, the boss of McLaren has gone on to talk about Verstappen's future as well, taking the courage to dig into the most controversial topic on the grid for quite some time. Even in the documentary Drive to Survive, we've seen that Verstappen's future with Red Bull is under a huge question mark, and Brown is very adamant that the four-time world champion is not going to remain in the Austrian team's camp next year. When being asked about this during an interview with The Telegraph, Brown said, "Oh, I think he'll leave at the end of this year, most likely to Mercedes. There's been talk of Aston Martin too, with Adrian Newey joining, but as great as Adrian is, and he is the greatest ever, you need a whole team around you. You need the culture. That takes time. If I were betting, I'd bet on Merck. In the last 10 years, they've won the championship 7 or 8 times. Last year, they won 5 races. They have stability. Plus, Russell is out of contract at the end of this season, and Kimi will be on a series of 1-year contracts." But the boss of McLaren is not taking a dig towards Red Bull for the first time in his career. The beef started all the way back in 2022 when Red Bull were found guilty of breaching the budget cap. Furthermore, Brown has been the loudest voice in the paddock when it comes to the transparency used in this case, and he hasn't shied away to comment in an extensive manner when it comes to Horner's allegations for his coercive behaviour. What this goes to show is that Brown doesn't really appreciate Red Bull nor Horner, and when talking about the relationship with the Brit, Zak said, "The enmity between me and Horner is real. There is no love lost there. I don't like how he rolls, and no doubt he feels the same about me, but I think it's good for the sport. You need different characters. You need these rivalries. Some are friendly, sporting rivalries. Some are a bit more vicious. It's always been like that." But the situation has changed a lot from when Brown started the comments against Red Bull to where his team is right now. The rebuild in McLaren is not something that we can turn a blind eye to. The entire infrastructure has changed from being the laughingstock on the grid to a championship winning team in a matter of 2 years. This is primarily why Brown now has the courage to talk about whatever he has on his mind. But the sole truth is that he might have a few more issues on his hands because of the intra-team battle between Piastri and Norris. Still, the MCL 39 turned out to be a very dominant car, and even when many believed that the rain would be the perfect equaliser, the tyre management as well as the car's general behaviour was ultimately a standard-setting one for the rest of the grid. This is an area in which Red Bull would have to improve massively if they want to catch up with the Woking-based squad, and when talking about how his team is now in the lead and what has changed over the past couple of years, Brown said, "The morale in the team is sky high. I think we are much smarter and more confident now. Last season, looking back, I feel we followed too much rather than led. We were kind of in a mindset of let's be as good as our rivals. Now, when I talk to the team, we've got much more of a mindset of let's be better than them. And with that comes much more of a mantra of, play on the front foot, don't play defence, play offence." On the other hand, Red Bull understood the task that they were given, and ultimately Verstappen would have to be extremely wise when it comes to his career choice after 2025. The challenge ahead of him is massive and potentially the biggest one after 2021. So if he's to stay in Red Bull and to fight for the championship, urgent changes need to be applied to the car. Of course, the focus remains on the Constructors' Championship as well, because whether we like it or not, they are the ones bringing the team the cash prize money and the satisfaction of knowing that you are better than the rest of the grid. But according to Verstappen's latest statement, the McLaren's tyre degradation is just out of this world, and it's not something that they can match that easily. This is the primary area of improvement for Red Bull, and when elaborating on why he wasn't able to keep close to Norris and Piastri before the carnage unfolded down the way it did, Verstappen said, "In the first stint, we obviously had no chance at all. McLaren were really a lot faster. Then I just tried to stay out of trouble, and we did that well. We kept the car in one piece and brought it back without any damage within second place. My tyres just overheated faster. You also see that with the other teams behind me. They have the same problem, and McLaren doesn't have that. They can just watch the tyres a little bit better. When that tyre naturally goes a bit, especially on the intermediates with very soft rubber, that's where you see that they are just suddenly a lot faster than everybody else." Again, even though Brown is paying attention to the drivers' movement in Red Bull and throwing shade at the choices of the Austrian team, he might be smart to look at what's happening in his own yard. Piastri has shown that he is not here to play the second fiddle, and when he was told to hold back because of the upcoming traffic from the cars that they were yet to lap, he said, "I'm faster, but okay." Then when the green light came for racing, it was a bit too much of a difference between the two drivers, which was further enlarged by Piastri going wide in turn 6. When talking about the team orders and how they weren't actually what they sounded like, Brown said, "That was just a hold while we were coming up on the lapped traffic, just to make sure we can both get through that. They were free to race. Actually, once we cleared it, Oscar dropped a wheel into the gravel, which was kind of a bit of a phew. Okay, they are not that close to each other. They are free to race, but I knew I was going to bite my nails until the rest of the race." With all this in mind, what do you think about the current dynamics in Red Bull's lineup? And more importantly, what do you think about Brown's focus on something that is not happening in his own team? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're interested in Hamilton's downbeat comments regarding the latest race in Melbourne, make sure to check out the video that's appearing on your screen right now.